Hey everybody, and welcome to Stitchwick Creations. This video is a collaboration between myself and two other artists. Lady Capybara has made Rose Red and Snow White. Kay's One of a Kind Factory has made Thumbelina. And I made Rapunzel. I took a head from an apple white and stripped her down to her basics and have rerouted her with some Canaclon hair in an ash blonde. Together this was really hard to get pictures of because it was 6 foot long and if I plugged it in the middle, so her hair was 3 foot long altogether and very difficult to sort of show the full capacity of it. I had to put her head on a stick and hold it between my feet so I could braid it and do all these fancy bits and pieces with it. I hadn't fully rooted her hair because the hair would have been quite heavy and I had to do a lot of clever braiding, folding around her head and making sure that you couldn't see the little bald patches. So we're going to whiz through the different stages of braiding her hair and looping bits and pieces through to make it look pretty, because it was fiddly as anything. I was quite chuffed that I was able to get this bird's eye view of doing. Oh no, maybe not. Going to go and try and do it another way. No, pins. It was really hard getting all of this in sort of shot because her hair was ridiculous, but it does look good at the end. So I had to sew it in place because it was quite unruly. The Canaclon hair also matted like nobody's business towards the ends of the braids, so I had to trim little bits off. I'd made these little tiny braids to weave through and try and hold it together, and that was pretty difficult. I'm using a DG Requiem's Regency dress pattern and I use greaseproof paper or baking paper to make little pattern pieces so that I can have little patterns run, cut the bits of paper up, and it means it doesn't matter if I tear it and I have a little copy that I can alter and draw on if needs be. These little fat quarters that you can get are absolutely fantastic, but because they're all stacked up and folded, they're really hard to get the creases out, so you have to give them a good old iron. If you're familiar with my videos, coming to this one, you'll know I hate pinning with a passion. It just frustrates me. It seems like a waste of time. I know it's really useful, but putting pins in and then taking them out and putting them in again and anyway, I did a lot of pinning and I'm glad I did. Really. I'm doing it properly. Grumble, grumble. Because this is a polycotton, it will eventually fray, so I'm just adding a bit of fabric glue on the seams to make sure that they don't fray and they don't pull, and it'll all stay together. Yeah, more pins. There, stupid pins. Tiny pins, stabby pins. Now everything is pinned together after doing the sleeves, I can get the sewing machine out. It's so much easier on the sewing machine. And I've also cut out like a little over jacket made out of lace, which kind of ends up looking like a sari, but it's not, it's Regency. In this. It's bloody cold where we are at the moment in England, and fuel crisis and all that kind of stuff, which means that it's bloody cold in the house. So I really need to give my mannequin doll a name. It was a broken doll. Its head had been snapped off. Anyway, I've put some press studs on the back in two places so that I can open or close them with great difficulty, it seems, and onto her face. I had quite a lot of difficulty with this one. It actually took me 6 attempts to get the eyes right. Every time I drew them in, they were looking off in different directions, or were uneven. It was just all over the place. I've also discovered that these magic sponges, magic erasery things, are really good at blending, and if you press harder, they will blend out and erase eventually the different bits and pieces. Look at those wonky eyes! Story time. There once lived a man and his wife, who had long wished for a child, but in vain. Now there was at the back of the house a little window which overlooked a beautiful garden full of the finest vegetables and flowers, but there was a high wall around it, and no one ventured into it, for it belonged to a witch of great might, and of whom all the world was afraid. One day, that the wife was standing in the window looking into the garden, she saw a bed filled with the finest rampion, or Rapunzel, as it was written in the original books, and she looked at it so fresh and green that she began to wish for some, and at length she longed for it greatly. This went on for days, and she knew she would not get the rampion. She pined away and grew pale and miserable. Then the man was uneasy and asked, "What is the matter, my dear wife?" "Oh," she answered, "I shall die unless I can have some of that rampion to eat that grows in the garden at the back of our house." The man, who loved her very much, thought to himself, "Rather than lose my wife, I will get some rampion, cost what it will." So, in the twilight he climbed over the wall and into the witch's garden, plucked hastily a handful of rampion and brought it to his wife. She made a salad of it at once and ate of it as much as her heart's content. But she liked it so much and it tasted so good that the next day she longed for it thrice as much as she had done before. If she was to have any rest, the man must climb over the wall once more. So he went back in the twilight again, and as he was climbing back he saw all at once the witch standing before him, and was terribly frightened, as she cried with her angry eyes, "How dare you climb over into my garden? Like a thief, you steal my rampion. It shall be the worse for you." "Oh," he answered, "be merciful rather than just. I have only done it through necessity, for my wife saw your rampion out of the window and became possessed with so great a longing that she would have died if she could not have had it to eat." Then the witch said, If it is all as you say, you may have as much rampion as you like, on one condition. The child that will come into the world must be given to me. It shall go well with the child, and I will take care of it like a mother." In his distress of mind, the man promised everything, and when the time came, when the child was born, the witch appeared, and giving the child the name of Rapunzel, she took it away with her. Rapunzel was the most beautiful child in the world. When she was 12 years old, the witch shut her up in a tower in the midst of the wood, and it neither had steps nor a door, only a small window above. When the witch wished to be let in, she would stand below the window and cry, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had beautiful long hair that shone like gold, and when she heard the voice of the witch, she would undo the fastening of the upper window, unbind the plaits of her hair, and let it down 20 ells below, and the witch would climb up by it. After they had lived thus for a few years, it happened that the king's son was riding through the wood. He came to the tower, and as he drew near he heard a voice singing so sweetly that he stood still and listened. It was Rapunzel, in her loneliness trying to pass the time away with sweet songs. The king's son wished to go into her tower and sought to find a door, but there was none. So he rode home, but the song had entered into his heart, and every day he went into the wood and listened to it. Once as he was standing under a tree, he saw a witch come to the tower, and listened while she called out, "Oh, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair!" Then he saw how Rapunzel let down her long tresses, and how the witch climbed up it and went into her. And he said to himself, "Since that is the ladder, I will climb it, and I will seek my fortune." And the next day, as soon as it began to grow dusk, he went to the tower and cried, "Oh, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair!" And she let her hair down, and the king's son climbed up it. Rapunzel was greatly terrified when she saw that a man had come into her, for she'd never seen one before. But the king's son began to speak so kindly to her, and told her that her singing had entered into his heart, and that he could have no peace until he'd seen her himself. Then Rapunzel forgot her terror, and when he asked her to take him for a husband, she saw that he was young and beautiful, and thought to herself, "I certainly like him much better than old Mother Gothel," and she put her hand into his, saying, "I will willingly go with thee, but I do not know how I shall get out. When thou comest, bring each time a silken rope, and we will make a ladder, and when it's quite ready, I will get down out of the tower by it, and you shall take me away on thy horse." And they agreed that he should come every day in the evening, as the old woman would come in the daytime. So the witch knew nothing of this until Rapunzel said to her mother unwittingly, "Mother Gothel, how is it you climb up here so slowly, yet the king's son is with me in a moment?" "Wicked child," the witch cried, "what is this I hear? I thought I had hidden thee from all the world, and thou hast betrayed me." In her anger, she seized Rapunzel by her beautiful hair, struck her several times with her left hand, and then grasping for a pair of shears with her right, snip, snap, the beautiful locks lay on the ground. So hard-hearted that she took Rapunzel and put her in a waste and desert place, where she lived in great woe and misery. The same day on which she took Rapunzel away, she went back to the tower in the evening and made fast the several locks of hair into the window hasp. And the king's son came and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then she let down her hair, and the king's son climbed up, but instead of his dearest Rapunzel, he found the witch looking at him with wicked glittering eyes. "Aha!" she cried, mocking him, "you came here for your darling, but the sweet bird sits no longer in the nest and sings no more. The cat has got her, and will scratch out your eyes as well. Rapunzel is lost to you, you will see her no more." The king's son was beside himself with grief, and in his agony he sprang from the tower to escape with his life, but the thorns in which he fell put out his eyes. Then he wandered blind through the wood, eating nothing but roots and berries, and doing nothing but lament and weep for the loss of his dearest wife. So he wandered several years in misery, until at last he came to the desert place, where Rapunzel lived with her twin children that she had borne, a boy and a girl. At first he heard a voice that he thought he knew, and when he reached the place from which it seemed to come from, Rapunzel knew it was him and fell on his neck and wept. And when her tears touched his eyes, they became clear again, and he could see them as well as ever. And then he took her to his kingdom, where they were received with great joy, and they lived long and happily. Well, that's a lot to unpack there, isn't there? Anyway, here's Rapunzel in all her glory, her 3-foot-long hair and her fiddly ass dress. And I hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun researching the original Rapunzel story, and that was probably the nicer version of it. And please go and check out Nerdy Capybara and Kay's One of a Kind Factories videos. I can't wait to watch them myself. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much, guys. See you again. Bye.